It sounds almost impossible to believe, but after 10 years after its initial release on the Nintendo Wii U, Mario Kart 8 has finally received its last wave of DLC. To commemorate the end of this long wait for Nintendo kart racing fanatics everywhere, we're going to be counting down every single racetrack in the game. There's a whopping 96 standard courses in the game now that all of the DLC is available, but only one of them can take home the gold. Welcome to One Up Binge. This is every Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track, worst to best. We'll be taking into account every possible factor here: layout, aesthetics, difficulty, and even nostalgia factor when applicable. So buckle up and start your engines. Number 96. Coming in at the very bottom of the list is Mario Circuit 3. This is the ultimate retro Mario Kart experience, for better and for worse. It's way too long for its own good, highlighting the many limitations of the SNES tracks. Number 95. Toad Circuit shows that painfully basic circuits aren't limited to the oldest games either. A short glide over part of the track isn't saving this one. Number 94. What does save Baby Park a bit is the novelty of its 7 laps over a short and simple race. But the wider track and lower number of items in play remove some of the total chaos that made the GameCube version so notorious. Number 93. Sunset Wilds shows off more diversity in its track hazards, but suffers from the removal of its original gimmick of a gradually setting sun. It's right there in the name Nintendo. How could you screw that one up? Number 92. They did a little better with Shroom Ridge, our first course to take place in traffic. It's not too exciting, but at least the coins and item boxes move along with the other vehicles in this one. Number 91. Much like Sunset Wilds, Sky Garden is another GBA track that got an unnecessary visual downgrade. This time, it's a less interesting color palette. That, plus not enough bouncy leaf shortcuts or glider time to appreciate the view over the clouds, lands this track lower on our list. Number 90. We're far from done with the game's many circuits though, because the DS Mario Circuit only has fire-spitting piranha plants and a darker forest section to set it off from the others like it. Number 89. Meanwhile, the GBA Mario Circuit has part of its track tilted into an anti-gravity section, but it's still pretty dated, though the pit stop detour near the end is fun, if nothing else. Number 88. Only slightly better is Ice Ice Outpost, one of the most disappointing new tracks in Mario Kart 8. It does little with its theme aside from some iceberg shortcuts and isn't too challenging or memorable, even with what comes of most of the course being split into 2 tracks. Number 87. Even more of a letdown is Cheeseland, although it does have some giant chain chomps for some extra challenge. It turns out that cheese isn't a great racetrack theme. Go figure. Number 86. Neo Bowser City, on the other hand, seems like it'd be a hit. However, even the visuals of a high-tech city on a rainy night and the challenge of skidding on the slippery track can't really disguise how bland this track can be. Number 85. Riverside Park also has some sights to take in, especially its tunnel and the jump through the waterfall. Too bad that the only element mixing things up here is the item-blowing patooies on the track. Number 84. The same is true for Choco Mountain. This track looks vastly better than the foggy brown original on the Nintendo 64, but not even a few falling rocks can really shake up its driving experience. Number 83. SNES Rainbow Road has been left in much the same way, with not enough hazards or innovation to allow it to stand out in contrast to the many other Rainbow Roads available in Deluxe. Number 82. Returning to Earth now. 8-Zone Mario Circuit might have a twisty anti-gravity section, but it's still just a figure 8 recycling themes we've seen many times before. But at least the shape of the track matches the game. Number 81. The Excitebike Arena captures the feeling of its base game wonderfully. It's just that that game came out in 1984 and definitely shows its age. The ramp placements may change every time, but you'll definitely be tired of them before you're done here. With that said, it does feel incredibly epic though when the crowd goes wild after you pull off a perfectly timed trick. Number 80. Moonview Highway's another track theme that's been covered elsewhere. Its long straightaways are fun to dash through, but its traffic won't pose much of a threat as long as you stay in the appropriate lane and only pass when it's safe. You know, just like real driving. Number 79. The real world is coming for Mario Kart, sure enough, because now we've got the first of many tracks based on actual cities from Mario Kart Tour. Tokyo Blur unfortunately doesn't do much with its setting, which is quite a surprise coming from Nintendo. The third lap route up onto the expressway is an uninspired choice, but to its credit, ends in a picturesque glider finish. Number 78. Yoshi Valley is also a treat for the eyes, especially with its added barrel jump and tunnel to spice up its many route options. Sadly, it's gotten a major downgrade in difficulty from the Nintendo 64. With lots of guardrails, wider roads, and the ability to always see what place you're in even with all the different paths. The mystery was part of the fun. Number 77. Another Nintendo 64 track that trades substance for style is Royal Raceway. It's gotten a beautiful floral facelift, but its massive jump no longer stands out in a game with glider sections all over the place. Also, you can no longer drive off-road to Peach's Castle, one of the series' most well-known Easter eggs. Number 76. There's less to be said about Yoshi's Circuit, which is just a solid update of an already solid track. Extra props being shaped like its namesake. Number 75. Daisy Circuit might not be shaped like everyone's favorite yellow-clad princess, but it's got a lovely sunset palette to match her signature outfits. That and the mad dash through the track's final turn are its standout features. Number 74. Had it gone for its own original palette, Dry Desert might have been ranked higher, but it's looking a bit more drab now. Good thing its new underwater section in the desert oasis adds some much needed variety to this dry race. Number 73. On the flip side, Moo Moo Meadows is a quaint and pastoral dash through a farm filled with adorable cows. It's unfortunate that it's pretty easy to glide past its only real rough patch. Number 72. No such luck with Donut Plains 3, as its last section can be deceptively tricky. Slippery puddles and tunneling Monty Moles are just waiting to trip you up around those final turns. Number 71. If you're looking for even more slippery fun, Snowland with its ice physics and moving item blocks will have you sliding all over the place. It'll really heat up this frigid track. Number 70. Swinging back to the hotter climates, Calamari Desert stands out as a simple throwback to a classic track, but then it throws racers for a loop by curving onto the train tracks in lap 2. That's a clever nod to another Nintendo 64 Easter egg, but it prevents racers from picking their own route. Railroading them, you might say. Number 69. If you need to quench your thirst after that, take a dive into the Water Park. It's a pretty basic track, being only the second one in the game, but it'll ease you into the game's underwater mechanics as you dash through an amusement park. Number 68. If you'd like something more exciting than a lazy river and water slides, Koopa Cape has you covered with its river rapids and deeper dives. And the music really adds to the energy in this one. Number 67. Sweet Canyon is likewise bolstered by its vibe, in particular its desert-flavored visuals. It's also got the game's first split section. Number 66. Then there's Cheap Beach, which stands out from other water courses with its jungle section. Its narrow sandbars and dirt paths can be tricky to deal with when the road gets crowded. Number 65. Dragon Driftway's open track and many jumping sections aren't as likely to get crowded, and its twisty road really stands out in contrast to the two simple tracks that precede it in the Egg Cup. This course gives a whole new meaning to dragon riding. Number 64. The Electrodrome delivers a similarly high energy with its visuals and music, but regrettably the track itself doesn't live up to that pumping EDM. It's pretty much Rainbow Road if it was in a dance club, but unfortunately not one of the more exciting Rainbow Roads either. Number 63. If you're looking for thrills, Bone Dry Dunes also doesn't have many to offer, although its bone wall segment leading into a glide to an upper path helps it distinguish itself from other desert tracks. Watch out for those dry bones shuffling their way onto the road. Number 62. If the desert has you worn out, relax for a while on the Daisy Cruiser. It's as laid back of a track as you'd expect on a cruise ship, but the interior overhaul is much appreciated. The alternate path through the now flooded hold is a real treat, as long as that doesn't mean the ship's sprung a leak. Number 61. The Mushroom Kingdom's princess offers a competitive vacation spot in the Peach Gardens. There's not much special going on here at first, but then in the third lap, the path curves back on itself, leading into a sweet glider segment over the chain chomps and the hedges. Number 60. Mario's rival, on the other hand, has no time for garden parties. Wario's Gold Mine will see you delving into dark tunnels along a creaky mine track as you go for the gold. The addition of singing Shy Guys in the interior is a cute touch, but something tells us that Wario's not the type of guy to be down with them whistling while they work. Number 59. For a faster pace, zip along in Anti-Gravity in Mute City. F-Zero fans will love this high-energy course, and especially the long section of dash panels at the start to really get you blasting along. But for everyone else, it's just kind of average. So towards the middle of the ranking it goes. Number 58. For some more down-to-earth perils, there's Wario Stadium. This returning DS track blends old and new hazards, all enhanced by its tricky off-center dash pads. It's a good thing Nintendo picked this Wario Stadium over the long slog that was the Nintendo 64 version. Number 57. The older Wario Stadium might indeed be one of the worst tracks in Mario Kart 64, but 8 opts instead to bring back one of its best. Toad's Turnpike here is very different from its original incarnation, with a wider road and anti-gravity wall sections, but the biggest change is undoubtedly that the traffic now flows in both directions. Try to catch some air off the ramps that some of the cars are hauling. Number 56. Ironically, the traffic's not as bad on Los Angeles laps. Its lengthy pier and road through the oil fields spice up the experience compared to the other tracks. Still, we're surprised to not see Hollywood make an appearance on this course. Number 55. You won't quite be seeing stars either in Cloud Top Cruise, but the view up there is amazing all the same. There's just something epic about driving through a raging thundercloud, even if the rest of the track can be a bit of a letdown in the thrills department. Number 54. But would you believe that we're only just now getting to Mario Kart 8's first course? Mario Kart Stadium has the gentle curves and introductory anti-gravity and glider sections you'd expect to ease new players into the game, but the glitz and firework fanfare keep it from feeling too much like an opening number. This truly is a celebration project from start to finish. Number 53. On that note, let's jump into some more retro tracks. Mushroom Gorge will delight and frustrate drivers in equal measure, with its gorgeous tunnel and imprecise bouncing atop mushroom platforms. You'll have to get the hang of them if you want to take advantage of its shortcuts. Number 52. Tick-Tock Clock likewise nails the look and sound of the innards of a relentlessly ticking clock, although some of its perils are less dangerous than they were in the DS version. The long gliding section over the rotating gears is the highlight of the experience. Number 51. Mario Kart 8 does some updating of its own as well. Sunshine Airport is vastly more interesting than the straight tarmac found in its namesake game, and the sight of massive jets taking off and landing throughout the race punctuates the experience. The airport even gives racers their own landing strip. Number 50. If you don't want to live out the fantasy of piloting a plane, how about a pinball? Waluigi Pinball sends racers careening through an enormous machine filled with bumpers, flippers, and metal balls. The blast tunnel at the start and the chaotic open pinball area are fantastic, but the long stretch in between does drag the race out a bit. Number 49. For something even more fast-paced and dangerous, check out Bowser's Castle 3. This is by far the most impressive SNES track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, with a great presentation and a fittingly high difficulty level. There's plenty of added enemies and anti-gravity on top of the considerable number of hazards carried over from the original. It's rounding out the bottom half of this list, but in a game with nearly 100 courses, an old track like this coming in at number 49 is high praise indeed. Number 48. Going from fire back to ice, Sherbert Land benefits from 8's underwater driving, something that Mario Kart Double Dash lacked. The water hazards are now alternate paths under the ice, and shifting the race to nighttime also allows for some beautiful auroras and fireworks, if you choose to take your eyes off the track for a moment. Number 47. At Shy Guy Falls, you won't have to look up to get the full view because the race brings you to the falls themselves. The dashpad-filled ascent and subsequent jump off the waterfall are great fun, and the Shy Guys mining to the music is a more fitting background detail here than it was in Wario's Gold Mine. Number 46. That's because we all know that the Mario Brothers' two scheming rivals like to rough it up in their races. Waluigi Stadium comes with the same old half-pipe, filled with hazards of all sorts, but the update really rewards the stylish with some alternate high paths that aren't in the original Double Dash version. Number 45. Returning to Mario Kart 8's first cup, Thwomp Ruins closes it out with an atmospheric challenge for new racers. Smashing thwomps, a tricky pond, optional wall climbing sections, and a clever little shortcut ramp make these ruins a lot of fun to explore. Number 44. This game's own take on Rainbow Road is as exciting as those tracks almost always are, with this one boasting a dash through a space station filled with conveyor belts that change direction. Regrettably, this track is a bit too average compared to many Rainbow Roads of the past, but it's still earning a moderately high ranking. To be an average example of Mario Kart's most celebrated category of races, places it leagues above many other tracks. Number 43. In the much broader category of Mario Kart Tour City Tracks, London Loop has some extra flair for its pathway options and chain chomps. It's just a shame that the musical nod to British rock doesn't stand out much in this game's soundtrack. Number 42. So far, the GBA retro tracks haven't stood out too much either, but Ribbon Road makes for a fine exception, thanks to its colored sections themed around 3 different characters. The number of hazards you'll face in this creative take on a course theme turns it into a more interesting race than you would expect coming from this title. Number 41. Returning now to the real world and to the other side of the pond, New York Minute serves up a jazzy score and sleek nighttime visuals. The road through the park, as well as the race's interior sections, also give it some extra flavor, which is absolutely essential when there's so many other cities on the kart racing tour. Number 40. We're wrapping up with GBA tracks though because it's time for Boo Lake. It's extremely atmospheric for such an old track, helped immensely by its new sunken underwater section. An unexpected dive under the surface of such a spooky track really amps up the haunted thrill. Number 39. From an old boardwalk to old ruins, Athens Dash has a vibe all its own apart from the other city tracks, although it's not as fast-paced as its name suggests. Look out for those secrets in those old Greek temples. Number 38. While we're talking about historical preservation, Music Park does a fantastic job of maintaining its unique energy and vibe from the high-concept 3DS incarnation. You'll need good rhythm to dodge all the hazards on this track. Number 37. Music Park's an experience unlike any other, but even with other lava races out there, Grumble Volcano really leaves its mark. There's tons of hazards to avoid and alternate paths to scope out, and this version features even more pieces of the track falling off with each lap than before. Careful you don't fall in with them. Number 36. You won't have to worry about falling off Big Blue, even if the track gives you vertigo when it turns upside down. It's the stronger of the two F-Zero courses, taking advantage of being one long stretch broken up into 3 laps to deliver a stronger and more memorable experience than Mute City. As we'll see going forward, that's generally the case with tracks structured in this way. Number 35. Rock Mountain, on the other hand, might come with a design that's as simple as it gets, but its long glider sections and mountain ascent add a ton of flair. Any track that knows how to make use of elevation changes like that deserves props in our book. Number 34. Coconut Mall also has some of that going on, albeit in a hectic suburban shopping setting. There's all sorts of options for navigating the mall, although when it comes to aesthetics, this fan-favorite track took a bit of a hit compared to what we saw on it on the Wii. Conveyor belts just don't match the look as well as escalators, and Shy Guys driving the cars in the parking lot lacks some of the weirdness factor of Mii's in the first iteration. Number 33. But as we've seen, Mario Kart 8's updates to classic tracks include more hits than misses. DK Mountain preserves the dynamism and challenge of the original while adding in new opportunities for tricking that weren't present in the original. It's weirdly not the best Donkey Kong themed ride up and down a mountain in this game, but we're getting there. Number 32. And we are indeed making progress as we cross over into the top third of our list with Sydney Sprint. This track makes the most of its variable track layout, starting and ending with a harbor glide and a race through the Opera House, allowing you to check out Sydney in style. Number 31. From soaring over the city to swinging through the trees, DK Jungle brings that classic Donkey Kong Country feel. The updated version now includes an anti-gravity section in the temple to pair well with the track's handful of risky shortcuts. It's a perfect end to Mario Kart 8's Banana Cup. Number 30. The jungle of Wild Woods is just as lush, and it'll have you zipping through a Shy Guy village and speeding down a river. There's something oddly satisfying about the many plank bridges you'll be racing over on this track. Number 29. Returning to the city, Toad Harbor stands out as one of only a handful of urban tracks in Mario Kart 8, not taken from the real world. The music and the downward sloping hill call to mind Sonic Adventure 2's famous City Escape, only much more laid back. Number 28. From the streets of Toad's Bayside town to bustling Thai markets, we're moving on to Bangkok Rush. Each lap here has one memorable section, from a rush through the river, to a long glide, to a bouncing across tents. Try to keep your bearings as you race through winding alleys and around the expressway. Number 27. There's even more waterlogged fun in the Piranha Plant Slide, which walks the fine line between updating the 3DS visuals while maintaining the track's retro Mario level charm. The underwater segment is more open than it used to be, but it's followed by an absolutely thrilling vertical ascent back to the surface. It's like you're back in the first ever World 1. Number 26. If cozy life sims are more your speed though, you'll adore Animal Crossing, the racetrack based on the beloved series of the same name. Its unique season mechanic adds replayability by shuffling around the hazards you'll face. Be sure to enjoy the cozy beachfront and the spectacular glide over the fountain when you visit this humble little village. Number 25. But we love those nighttime city tours, so Rome Avanti's up next, serving up a fantastic atmosphere and expert use of its own gliding sections. The Colosseum gets a real workout on this course, featuring prominently in two of the race's very different laps. Number 24. Super Bell Subway may lack the shifting track layout, but you'll hardly notice with how chaotic this race can get. There are trains heading in both directions, as well as paths above if you're looking to avoid getting sideswiped. The subway captures some of the same claustrophobic energy as the original Toad's Turnpike, and it sure knows how to use it. Number 23. Another track with a high ski ceiling is the breathtaking DK Summit. You'll need a steady hand to avoid its open pits and patches of heavy snow, but it's a great course if you love doing tricks in the halfpipes. Number 22. For a more leisurely pace, there's the first of the Booster Pass's many city tracks, Paris Promenade. The many familiar landmarks and variable path options combine with a direct switch in the third lap to provide you with a wonderful experience in the City of Light. Number 21. The best way to follow up such a lovely trip would be with something totally off the wall, and that's where Sky High Sundae comes into play. The creative concept of a track in the clouds themed around refrigerated desserts transcends its simple oval design, and a number of tricky jumps will ensure that your time here isn't a cakewalk. It's a high-energy treat right from the opening glider section and all the way until you're back inside the chilled bar area at the start. But honestly, how are those poor toads not freezing in there? Number 20. They'd be even colder in Rosalina's Ice World. It's not the most visually interesting of the game's ice courses, but it offers a lot of challenge and rewards skillful drivers with alternate paths. And definitely keep a sharp eye out for the Super Mario Galaxy references. Number 19. You'll also want to be paying attention to the sights in Berlin Byways. It combines many of the best elements of the Tour City tracks we've seen thus far, with high-energy music, lots of hazards, multiple side paths, and another track reversal so you can experience Berlin in both directions. Number 18. Indeed, the higher we climb in the rankings, the more sights there will be to take in. Maple Treeway offers stunning autumn visuals backed by cozy music. You'll be dashing and gliding along giant tree branches and tricking along the track like in most of the Mario Kart Wii courses. And is there any substitute for the simple fun of smashing through big piles of leaves? Number 17. If we're instead looking at a dive into the ocean, Dolphin Shoals nails those underwater visuals and tempts drivers with multiple paths through the abyss. Unagi, the giant eel, cameos as a tricky but fun obstacle to navigate, and big props as well to this track's music, with a saxophone that knows precisely when to come in. If you've run this race before, you'll know exactly what we mean. Number 16. Like Unagi as a classic Super Mario 64 reference, the Twisted Mansion features plenty of Luigi's Mansion homages, while still being very much its own thing. Its unnerving use of anti-gravity sections and a randomly flooded segment will keep you on edge as you race throughout the hallways. It's gonna take more than a poltergust to exorcise the ghosts from this creepy course. Number 15. Let's avoid the frights for a while and check out Amsterdam Drift. It's not as hazardous as Berlin, but more visually stunning thanks to its tulips and windmills, to say nothing of the dip into its canal. Once again, the track curves back on itself, and here more than in any other places that may lead you to driving against other racers, so watch out. Number 14. You'll really have to be on top of your game for the Wii Rainbow Road. It's the longest and arguably the most difficult of the many Rainbow Roads in 8 Deluxe. But even with the fantastic music and numerous opportunities to show off your best tricks, this one still isn't our favorite of that group. No doubt that it's an epic conclusion to the booster pass though. Number 13. Let's bring it down a bit again for another city track. Madrid Drive is more grounded than many others like it, with only a single gliding section. Nonetheless, its energetic music and varied interior set pieces in the market, museum, and football field carry it above and beyond most of the others in its class. Number 12. The same is true for Merry Mountain among the game's snow courses. This is the perfect holiday track, from the cozy village at the start to the train chugging away overhead. The half-pipe gives you lots of opportunities to perform tricks, and the glorious descent back to the start is the shimmering star atop this festive holiday tree. 'Tis the season to be karting. Number 11. Vancouver Velocity includes some turns through a snowy forest, but this track is so much more than that. It's one of the most challenging city tracks and also comes packed with a variety of sights to take in, like a hockey arena and a glide over the city skyline. And if you're getting fatigued from all this world touring, don't worry, because we're down to the top 10. Number 10. Hyrule Circuit is a gift to all Legend of Zelda fans, and other racers will love it for its good level of challenge. See if you can unlock the secret of the Master Sword and its bonus dash ramp. This course truly earns its place as the last race in the Triforce Cup. Number 9. Mario Kart 8 doesn't warrant a cameo from Ganon, but it's got that final boss feel more than covered with Bowser's Castle. The many hazards and hard rock soundtrack really amp up the energy of this deadly course, and you'll be feeling the heat as you soar over lava and dodge lasers and the powerful fists of a giant moving statue of the Koopa King himself. Honestly, Bowser spares no expense on home security. Number 8. When it's time to cool off from that rush, head over to Singapore Speedway, which is our pick for the best city track in the Booster Pass. Each lap is very different from the last, with multiple fun, long gliding sections that will see you catching air over the city. Singapore perfectly blends modern and traditional aesthetics, and you'll need to master both sides of this course if you want to claim first place. Number 7. We're getting more and more varied as we climb higher in the ranks. Mount Wario will send you careering out of an airplane and down one long snowy slope, broken up into 3 segments. It's the first race in Mario Kart 8 to be structured like this, and it's to Mount Wario's advantage. You'll need to contend with all sorts of terrain types and navigate an incredible underground river. Number 6. The complete opposite type of course layout is one from Mario Kart Tour, with multiple paths that shift every lap, and Piranha Plant Cove excels in that regard. You'll be speeding through coral reefs, underwater caves, and ruins, as well as the resting places of sunken pirate ships in this race, to take the prize in 8 Deluxe's strongest water course. Number 5. But Piranha Plant Cove just barely misses the top 5, courtesy of Squeaky Clean Sprint. This is bar none the most creative track idea in the game. A mouse-sized car wash staged in a bathroom. I mean, if you can catch enough air over the toilet, you can really take in the view. Just try not to think about it too hard, or about the long stretch of track that goes down the bathtub drain. You really will need a wash after that. Number 4. Coming in at number 4 is the similarly clever Ninja Hideaway. Skillful driving and gliding will take you far in this trap-laden race. There's a lot of moving parts to take into account as you speed through a multi-level dojo rife with all sorts of hazards. Tokyo Tour might start off the Lucky Cat Cup on a bland note, but this hideout brings it home with style. Number 3. We're getting into max points for style now, because we're giving out our top 3 prizes. The bronze trophy has to go to Yoshi's Island, which really scored high for its abundance of references and painstaking attention to detail. Fans of Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island will adore every moment of this track. And even if you haven't played that game, you'll be on the edge of your seat between the underwater dive and the glide into the clouds, leading into a drop over an active volcano. If you can hit the winged cloud in midair, you'll also be treated to a surprise at the end. Racing here feels like playing through a level of Yoshi's Island. And honestly, it's hard to get any better than that. Number 2. And yet, somehow 2 tracks manage exactly that. The Nintendo 64 Rainbow Road claims the silver trophy for Best Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track, as in almost every respect, it's a vast improvement over the original. The imagery is much stronger now that you're racing over a brilliantly lit city, through a sky filled with fireworks, and the danger is amped up with the removal of some of the rails, and even the chain jumps are more interesting as hazards. Turning this course into a single long track ensures that it won't wear out its welcome, like it inevitably does on the Nintendo 64. Although, ironically, it may now feel too short. We fully understand though why this is the track that appears on the game's cover art and the title screen. It's really hard to beat the sheer spectacle. And number 1. The only track that could possibly top it is the 3DS Rainbow Road, which earns our gold trophy for best track in Mario Kart 8. It's also a single long track, and every turn and straightaway is packed with the energy you would expect of a top-tier course. The lack of rails ups the difficulty, and it has just enough dash panels to keep things exciting without going overboard. The detours onto a planet's rings and over the cratered surface of a moon only give you more reason to appreciate the track itself, which shimmers with a watery texture reminiscent of an actual rainbow. 3DS Rainbow Road further benefits from being a relatively recent track itself, as it incorporates its own callbacks to past iterations of the theme in its music and track sections. It's an unparalleled combination of the retro and the modern, standing tall in the winner's circle above all the rest of the best that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has to offer.